Hello, my name is William Abel, and this is Common Sense. I'd like to thank GCD Network for helping sponsor his program. If you'd like to help sponsor his program, you can donate to through Cash App at $ Abel TX31. Once again, you can donate through Cash App at $ Abel ABEL TX31. So well, I got some stuff prepared that I had prepared previously, and then I had some breaking news coming through my phone just prior to me coming on here to do this podcast tonight. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about ways that the government can save money because I'm really big about cutting all the wasteful spending in the federal government. And I know that's a task that is not going to happen overnight, but every dollar saved benefits the taxpayers. There was also got an article that came through about Israel restarted attacks in Gaza, ending the ceasefire. Joe Biden, or I'm sorry, not Joe, Hunter and Ashley Biden both had their Secret Service protection pulled. I'm going to talk about the judge who ordered the illegal gang members from Venezuela to be returned, and what the response from the GOP is on that. And then we'll go ahead and we'll see where we're at time-wise. If we have time tonight, then I'm also going to go ahead and talk about, we already talked about the ICE and how ICE has already done it. JFK files, which are supposed to be released tomorrow. I'm going to have about a 2-week period where I'm going to be out for when I get back. We'll go ahead and I'll have a chance to go ahead and look at the files from the JFK files, and we'll see if they actually release the files everyone has been wanting to see, or if it's just another smokescreen, kind of like the Jeffrey Epstein release, where all they did was release the files that were already made public. They didn't release all the other documents they had. They say they're still working on that now, but we'll see what we actually get. Time will tell. And other than that, we will talk about some of the issues I have with how this Congress has been operating and functioning. We're in a March already. Members of the House, they only get a 2-year term, and they're kind of slow walking everything instead of getting the bills put up to the committees, pass through the committees, to bring to the House floor for a vote. They had plenty of time to go ahead and start drafting the bills prior to Trump taking office. Once they knew he won, they knew how big of a majority they had in the House. They should have started working on writing the bills up and getting them ready to go ahead and go through. And that way we're not sitting with Trump's executive orders, which all these congressmen or Republican congressmen and women are going to run on, without cementing it in the law. I've talked about it a couple times, but hopefully some of these congressmen and women will get off their ass and actually do something. So tonight I'm going to start with one way we can go ahead and save some money in the federal budget. So I know when I was in the Army, every September, right before the new fiscal year started, we go out, and every unit I was ever a part of, every unit that I knew of, we go out and just blow any remaining money they had from the budget that year, because we were on a use or lose system. If you didn't use the money you were allocated that year, then they decrease the amount you got the next year. The problem is you have red cycles, which would be guarding like ammo points, doing gate guards, funeral details, stuff like that, where you're not really using your military vehicles, your military equipment as much. So you may not need as much money that year. But then the following year, you might be going out to the field for, up to 6 months, almost consecutively. They normally give you like a 1-week period where you go out to the field for about 2-3 weeks. You come back for about a week. You go ahead, reset, and pack everything back up to go back out to the field again for 2-3 weeks. And they do that because if you stay down in the field for longer than 30 days, there was all kinds of pay that they'd have to go ahead and give them. So they normally have that small break in between. But for the most part, you were at work for 6 months straight. Because even when we came back from the field, we'd be at work till 9, 10 o'clock at night. So, anyways, in September, they'd always go ahead and just blow any existing money they had on stupid stuff. They'd buy stuff that we never used, we didn't need, just for the sake of using it, so they could go ahead and make sure their budget is at least set at the same rate as it was the previous year. And when we're in the field, for extended periods of time, we constantly have vehicles breaking down. The problem with that is a lot of times the budget we have in order to go ahead and get the stuff we need, we don't have enough money to fix all the vehicles. Now, I was a forward observer, so I basically set up on a hilltop and observe the battlefield. If I seen something that I needed blown up, I call back to the artillery guns, the mortars. I was able to control fixed wing and the rotary wing aircraft, pretty much any indirect fire system. And I give them the coordinates, have them blow it up, all that stuff. And they put us on B-Fists, which were the Bradley fighting vehicles. Ours was configured differently from the ones the infantry used and all that. But we had combined all of the forward observers into one battalion. And then whenever we went out to the field or anything else, we go out to whichever unit we were attached to and we do our job. But maintenance and everything was done through the one unit. The problem is the unit that we were in, and we were all consolidated in a field artillery unit, they didn't have Bradley mechanics. They had track mechanics, but a track mechanic and a Bradley mechanic are two completely different things. And God bless the track mechanics. They came over and they tried to help us out the best they could. We had about a total of 17 Bradley vehicles. And I remember at one point in time, we had 14 or 15 Bradleys that were deadline, meaning we weren't able to use them. We couldn't take them out. We couldn't take them to the field. We couldn't take them to any kind of training or anything else. They were pretty much just sitting in our motor pool collecting dust. And a lot of times the problems would be because we didn't have the money to go ahead and get them fixed. One thing we can do to fix that, and I'm sure just about every government agency has the same method for their funding, is you go ahead and you have a rollover system. So let's say year one, we may not, let's say they have a budget of, let's say $5 million, whatever. Let's say they only use $2.5 million that year. Any remaining money would be rolled over into the next year. You go ahead, you review the budget every 2 to 3 years, and you see if, okay, hey, look, they actually needed more money than what they had, so we're going to increase the budget here. Hey, they haven't used this money, we can decrease it, or we can keep it where it's at. But then it prevents them from wasting the money on stuff that they don't need just for fear of losing that funds and not having the money later on down the road when they do need it. If you do that, we can get better records of what's going on, what's the money being spent on, where we can go ahead and cut money from, and they could do that with the financial troops that are already in the Army. They can go ahead and have audits on their books, but that's not really done. No, realistically, it's not. You have quote unquote audits, but it's a joke. And you do that with every organization, government organization. Instead of going ahead and every year giving everybody an increase in pay, you don't know what the money's being used for. I've talked about before in the in the military budget where money was being spent. What was it? It was $8.6 million for gender advisor programs. Now, I've never been able to get a straight answer on what exactly gender advisor programs are, but we wasted $8.6 million. And in the grand scheme of things, when you look at the debt and the deficit and everything, that's not a whole lot of money, but you got $8.6 million here, you got $3 million here, you got another $5 million here. It adds up. And every dollar, any wasted taxpayer dollar is a problem. So that's something that we can do that can actually probably save us a lot of money. Having actual legit audits on where all the money's going to, what we can cut out of it, what they may need extra, and getting the budget done from that aspect. Of course, we'd also need to go ahead and go back to the 12 spending bills, the 12 appropriation bills to fund the government instead of doing these omnibus bills, which we've been doing since the 90s. Once they went ahead and got away with it a couple times, they just kept rolling with it, and now everyone thinks it's normal. Realistically, they should be working on the budget right now, today, up until they get the bills passed. But they won't. They'll wait until the last minute to get started on it and be like, oh, well, we didn't have enough time to get the bills passed. We didn't have enough time to get everything done. We're going to do a continuing resolution until the end of the year. So you go ahead, pass a continuing resolution, then everyone goes stagnant, and it'll be stalemate. It'll be a complete stalemate and everything until around November, December. Then they'll start freaking out, being like, oh, well, we got to pass a bill. We don't got time to pass the 12 individual bills. So we're just going to pass this big omnibus bill, which ends up being over like 1,500 pages long. And they'll release it the day before they vote on it, the night before. So no one has time to actually go through it with a fine-tooth comb and find all of the pork and wasteful spending in it. And we just continuously do that. That's why our national debt has risen substantially from the 90s up until today. And until we actually hold these people accountable that have been running this government and been doing a shitty job of it at that, until we hold them accountable, it's going to continue happening. We've got to go ahead, get with our representatives, call them up, and hold them accountable. Hold their feet to the fire. If they have someone else, or if they have someone else running against them, look into that other candidate. See if they're the right choice. Don't just blow it off and just say, I'm going to vote for the incumbent just because he's been there for 50 years. I'm just going to keep him. If they don't have anyone running against them and they're not doing their job, and you can check their voting record. There's all kinds of sites you can go to check the voting records. I actually had an app on my phone. It was called Congress, but that one doesn't seem to be working anymore. So now I normally just go ahead and do searches online until I find the voting record I want to find. But check their voting record. If not, try and help find a candidate to run. Or if you want to, run. It's not. It helps to have a lot of money, but you can do it without having to spend $5 million. Depending on your district. If you're in California, well, then, you're going to probably have to spend about $10 million, and that'll get you about 5 signs. But other than that, you can get it done, but you got to be active. You got to know what you're talking about. You got to do your research, and you got to know what the job entails. That's a big one. I went on the rant last week about that. I'm not going to rehash that. Just make sure you know what you're talking about. So the next story I went off and I saw, and it, like I said, popped up on my phone about maybe 20 minutes before I jumped on here. So I had a chance to kind of skim through the article real quick. But Israel has started attacking Gaza. They're doing strikes over Gaza because Hamas has refused to release the hostages, officials say. So their strikes mark a return to Israeli military campaign against Hamas following the January 19th start of a ceasefire. So they had the ceasefire in place. Hamas was supposed to release all the hostages. They had been having talks back and forth with the U.S. being the mediators. Hamas is failing to go ahead and return the hostages, both the living and fallen. And apparently Israel had enough of it, and they continue the campaign and the war attacking Hamas. Obviously, I'm sure there'll be a lot more to talk about that when I return. But yeah, all I got right now is that Israel has begun attacking Gaza again, and we'll see where this goes. On the talk of war, Russia and Ukraine, they are inching closer. They're both working with the U.S. right now to go ahead with the peace deal and the ceasefire and everything. Right now, last I saw, the ball was in Russia's court, waiting to see what their response is. But realistically, I really don't trust Ukraine. Ukraine has been getting a crap load of money from the U.S. and other countries as well, including Europe. Not quite as much, but they're benefiting from the war. A lot like the U.S. does a lot of times when we go into war. Well, we don't benefit, but the politicians do. And as I've talked about before on the program, some of the money we sent to Ukraine, it was spent paying for the pensions and salaries for the politicians in Ukraine. Now, I'm not sure how that was supposed to help the war effort or anything. And there's very little doubt in my mind that some of the money sent there just got funneled back around and put back in the politicians' pockets, whether through their campaign accounts or directly into their pockets. So yeah, I'm pretty much fed up and done with funding Ukraine and watching Zelensky fly all over the world and give his sob story while his wife's in Paris going on a shopping spree and buying a brand new, I think it was a Ferrari or Lamborghini or something. It's ridiculous. And if he was serious and he actually wanted the war to end, he would have came to the table a long time ago. But then again, the U.S., at least recently, they haven't been serious about ending the war either. From the start of the war up until, the last day of Biden's administration, they just really were not sitting there and trying to end the war. They wanted to keep it going. And every time Zelensky would come to the U.S., he'd be buddy-buddy with Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, Biden, everybody else, sitting there joking, laughing, having a good old time, and he'd leave with a big fat check. And as you remember, a couple weeks ago, he went to the White House, and they were supposed to go ahead and sign a mineral deal and talk about a peace agreement between them and Russia and everything fell apart. And realistically, to me, from my point of view, I see it as Zelensky expecting to come to D.C., be buddy chummy with everybody and leave again with a check, which failed to happen. And he threw a little temper tantrum because of that. So we'll see what happens with that. Should have more information on that by the time I come back in about 2 weeks. So Trump ends the Secret Service protection for adult Biden children, Hunter and Ashley. Now, I did not, this popped up too. Haven't really been able to look into it too deep. But according to the article, it says Trump noted that 18 Secret Service agents were assigned a Hunter Biden security detail at the expense of taxpayers. So President Donald Trump on Monday announced that former President Joe Biden's adult children will no longer receive U.S. Secret Service protection. In a True Social post, Trump remarked that Hunter Biden has received Secret Service protection for an extended period of time. There are as many as 18 people on this detail, which is ridiculous, Trump wrote. Please be advised that effective immediately, Hunter Biden will no longer receive Secret Service protection. Ashley Biden, Hunter's sister, will have her Secret Service protection revoked as well. Trump noted that 13 agents assigned to her noted that there were 13 agents that were assigned to her security detail. We're aware of the president's decision to terminate protection for Hunter and Ashley Biden. Secret Service told Fox News Digital. Secret Service will comply and is actively working with the protective details and the White House to ensure compliance as soon as possible. On top of that, there was also talk about all of the pardons that Joe Biden kind of pushed through at the last minute, including an hour prior to him leaving office. They are all null and void. Apparently, they were all signed with auto pen, and there's even questions whether or not Biden even knew if the pardons were being done. So it's saying that they are no longer that the pardons were illegal and not to be followed. So we'll see where that leads, and we'll see if anybody that he pardoned, including Anthony Fauci, who we all know is the one who pushed the whole COVID thing and pretty much destroyed the country in 2020. And we'll see if anything happens to them, as well as the members of the January 6th committee who went ahead and did some shady, to say the least, things during their investigation. So next thing I'm going to go ahead and talk about is the judge who ordered deportation flights of Venezuelan gang members to be returned. And if you don't know, Trump had sent somewhere around 200, I can't remember, it was 37 or 87 members of the Venezuelan gang. Let me see. Let me try to remember. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Trendy Argua gang. I may have butchered the name, but I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. To El Salvador, and had them imprisoned in the prisons in El Salvador. This judge went ahead and decided, no, you can't do that. You need to bring them back. So the judge is ordering us to go ahead and bring back these illegal gang members from Venezuela and bring them back to the U.S. Honestly, nothing makes sense anymore. How is a judge going to order us to go ahead and take in illegal immigrants, and not only just illegal, but illegal violent gang members back into the country because he's saying, well, we deported them illegally. And the whole reason that's coming up is because the ACLU and left-wing legal advocacy group, Democracy Forward, had filed a suit. The lawsuit alleged that Trump's intent to use his wartime authority to deport dangerous illegal immigrants was unlawful since the U.S. is not in the midst of a declared war. The lawsuit following a proclamation signed by Trump on Saturday, which alleged the violent gang members belonging to the Venezuelan-based TDA gang were conducting irregular warfare and undertaking hostile actions against the United States. Last month, Trump moved to designate a slew of Mexican drug cartels, including TDA, as foreign terrorist organizations, FTOs. And like I said, this judge had decided to go ahead and say, no, you can't deport them. Now, whether or not we have taken back any of them members from the Venezuelan gang back from El Salvador, I'm not 100% sure on. I will have to look into that further. But the GOP's response is to go ahead and file impeachment. File for impeachment of this judge. And we'll see where that goes. But honestly, I'd be surprised. I'm not surprised that they're going to go ahead and file articles of impeachment against the judge, because it seems like when they take office, up until about July, you have all this political theater. And that's normally all it is. It's investigations and it's all these, it's a bunch of investigations that lead nowhere. They'll go ahead, and how many times have they said, oh, well, we're doing an investigation. We found that the FBI is corrupt and they were doing things illegally. And then 3 months later, they go ahead and they vote on a bill to give the FBI $300 million new building. How many times have we heard about all the corrupt stuff that, this person's doing, this person or this organization's doing? So they'll go ahead and gather up all the dirt on them and everything and say, we're not going to stand for this, and then sweep it underneath the rug. That's a lot like the all the foreign countries that own land in the United States, that own agricultural land. Not one politician said one thing about it until the people start talking about it. Then it became a big headline. It became a big news story. They were watching people talking about it on social media and everything. That's when they came up and they started talking about it and saying, hey, we're going to do something about this. And then people forgot about it and nothing's been done. So it's still going on, still happening. You had some states at the state level that took actions in their state. But realistically, this is a prime example of something that can be passed federally to stop it all across the United States and not allow non-citizens from owning land, especially agricultural land. I mean, think about it. You have a bunch of these small farmers that end up losing their farms because, you have everybody, they're these foreign countries buying out all the agricultural land and just killing them. That and all the corporations buying agricultural land, and Bill Gates, because you can't forget about him. He buys up more agricultural land than anybody. And I don't trust that guy any further than I can throw him. And that's just me. We also have there's something else I wanted to touch on. Let's see. There's Trump administration is considering a new travel ban, which would affect a total of 43 countries. Now, whether or not he goes through with all of them, and it doesn't mean it's going to be a travel ban on 43 different countries. Some of it could be raising the level for the travel bans, and what that would do would make it harder for people from that country to go ahead and travel here and come to the United States. Like Russia, I think right now they're at orange level, so they can technically still come to the United States and travel to the United States. However, it's a lot more difficult, a lot more red tape they got to go through, and not everybody's going to be allowed to go ahead and come through with that level where it's at. I don't have a complete list of the countries that they were talking about on that, but I'll keep my eyes open and we'll see what we see about what I hear about that. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the House of Representatives again and Congress as a whole. So as I was saying, from January when they took over, I can understand them not really pushing any bills or anything until after Trump took office because they knew it'd be a fight. They wouldn't win. You get vetoed, and it'd kind of be pointless. But when Trump came in, he signed all of those executive orders. And while it helps right now, and it may be good for his 4-year term and everything, unless something happens, and in the world we're living in today, I don't doubt that something could happen. Hopefully not. But once he leaves office and someone else takes over, they can do away with it. The only way to go ahead and get it secured in the law is to go ahead and pass legislation. Well, like I said, they do all these investigations from like January up until about July. And then July, they'll stop the investigations. They'll tell you how corrupt everybody is, how much wrongdoing this person, that person, everybody else is doing. They don't do anything about it. And then they go into the budget. And then come, the end of August, you're like, oh, we're not going to be able to get the budget passed. And we need to do a continuing resolution. And this happens every damn year. If you pay any attention, you already know the pattern. They go ahead and they pass a continuing resolution, gives them a couple months to try and work on the budget, to pass a budget. They never do. Then comes the end of December, all the fears of, oh no, there's going to be a government shutdown, this and that. No, excuse me. Government shutdown, and they say, oh, well, we're going to do an omnibus bill just to keep the government open. Next year, we're going to get the 12 spending bills passed. And once again, rinse, spin, repeat. Because every damn year, it happens the exact same way. Right now, we're in the investigation phase and the gotcha phase, where they're just going ahead and putting on a show for everybody. So it makes it look like they're doing something. But nothing's ever done. And then around July, August will come out talking about the budget, which they haven't even really started on. Or they've been slow walking this entire time. And then they pass omnibus bill. And when they pass omnibus bills, like I said, they go ahead and they throw so much pork in there and BS I've talked about before, like the earmarks in the bills. There was 3 million for or 3.6 million, I think it was, for Michelle Obama hiking trail, 3 million for the LGBTQ plus museum in New York City, $2 million set aside for Great Blacks and Wax, and so forth and so forth. Well, that's not helping us. And then a majority of our tax dollars go overseas to fund condoms for this country or drag queen shows in this country and everything else, and promoting transgender lifestyles in, Somalia or whatever. And that's money that we're giving out of our paycheck to the federal government to spend on our behalf, and that's what they think that the majority of Americans want. And anybody, I really don't give a shit what side of the aisle you're on, Republican, Democrat. They're all doing this. They're all allowing this because they can say, "Well, I didn't know about this." It's like, well, how come Elon Musk could find it in 4 weeks? Why is it that freaking Rand Paul puts out a list of all this crap every damn year? So those two people can find it. Elon Musk in 4 weeks, and Rand Paul's been doing it for, I went through like all his Festivus bills. He's been doing it for about 14, 15 years now. So he's been doing it all this time, and you had no idea any of this was happening. They're lying directly to our face. And it's something that we really need to go ahead and take care of and start holding these representatives accountable because they are supposedly representing us. Most people, I hope, know that they don't really care about us. All they care about is their big donors. If you give them enough money, they'll do whatever you want to do. A prime example of that was the guy I ran against last election, John Carter, who he ran around the district talking about, I got rid of the vaccine mandates for the military and, hey, give me a pat on the back. But then he took a huge donation from the Airline Pilots Association and then voted against ending the vaccine mandates for the airline pilots. I don't know about you, but I don't want a pilot that was forced to take a vaccine that had all kinds of side effects, all kinds of issues with, and didn't do what they said it was going to do to begin with. So, I don't know. That might just be me, but I don't want that. Well, it's about time for me to close it up, but when I do return, we will go ahead and hopefully have the JFK files. Like I said, they're supposed to be released tomorrow, and I'll have time to go through them all. We'll discuss it. We'll see if it was another nothing burger, kind of like the Epstein files that they've released already, which were released prior to that, or if there's any new information in there and anything that might shed light on what actually happened. Like I said, I have my doubts, but we'll see. Time will tell. So until 2 weeks from now, God bless America, God bless Texas, and God bless each and every one of you.